The opinions and statements expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
Entrepreneur, author, and financial consultant Mark Bernstein helps high-performing entrepreneurial business owners create a vision for the future and follow through on their goals and intentions. Ange Honorato is a business growth strategist who blends psychology and business together to create conscious leaders and business owners who impact the world. Founders Forum is a radio show podcast sharing the real stories behind entrepreneurship as founders discover more about themselves while providing valuable lessons and some fun and entertainment for you. Now, here's Mark and Ange.
Good morning, America. How are you? Good morning, Philadelphia. How are you? Good morning if you're listening on the podcast world. How are you? And I say good morning regardless of what day it is what time of day it is that you're listening to us, because it could be any time of day, but let's pretend it's morning and you have all that great energy in the morning, and let's have a great time today. So my co-host Ange is coming to us live, not in the studio today, but from somewhere in Texas, in Austin, I believe. Good morning, Ange. So we're having a little trouble in our studio hearing Ange. So our engineer Colin is working on that. So while he's working on that, I'm going to talk a little bit about a thought I had this morning driving into the studio into Ballackinwood, and I was listening to a song on the radio that just happened to come on my phone called Soldier of Love by Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul. And I know that Ange is smiling because she is from the Asbury Park area and a big Springsteen and Little Steven fan. I was listening to this song and I said, what a great song. It was written in the, I guess, late 50s or 60s and first performed by Arthur Alexander. And Little Steven mentioned that the only reason he knew that song was because of the Beatles having done it live. It was never released by the Beatles other than on their BBC sessions. And so I listened to his version of it. Is so great. It was done live like a year or two ago that I listened to it several times. And then I went back and listened to the Beatles live version. And then I listened to the original Arthur Alexander. And it's so profound because it talks about, laying down your weapons and going to love. Got it. Okay, we're good. Still have an echo though for some reason. Where is Ange now? We lost Ange. Anyway, so it was such a great song, and we and I think it's so appropriate today's world because everybody seems like they're weaponized. We're polarized. I don't have to tell you about that. You can listen to any news network and know that there's only one side of the story or the other side of the story. And the lesson in the song is basically lay down your arms and surrender to love, which is such a great lesson for today. I think they should be playing that song all the time. And do we have Ange, Colin?
I think I'm here now.
There you are. And we got a picture. There we are. Okay, we've got everything.
The beauties of technology.
So your thoughts on the weaponization and laying down our arms and surrendering to love, Ange? I'm sure you have a thought about that.
Yes, well, you know me well because I have lots of thoughts, especially in the morning. I think the thing that comes to my mind right away, Mark, is the fact that I think for many, many years, and I've worked also in the corporate space for 30 years, and knowing what we can speak about effectively and what not, what things don't tend to make HR's skin crawl. But I think the concept of love and bringing the term and the idea of bringing love into everything that we do, right? Bringing it into our offices, into our communities, speaking in love, approaching everything with love. I feel like that was kind of shunned a little bit for many years. And I think the world is such today that we do see so much weaponizing, whether it's words or social media, whatever the case. And I think just getting back to the basics, bring love into everything that we do. And it can't be a bad day when we do that.
That's great. So I knew you'd have some thoughts about it, and I pretty much thought those were your thoughts, and those are great thoughts. And when I think of love, I think of healing as well. And there's a Hebrew expression I love that's called tikkun olam, which means healing the world. And, ultimately that's about love. And our guest today really probably doesn't express it as love as much but is doing great work and is literally healing the world in a certain way. And I'm very, very excited to have him here today. And I call him Coach Andy. This is Coach Andy Talley, the former coach of the Villanova football team. And we're going to tell you a little bit about his story, but he is literally the coach who refounded the So he is a founder, I would say, of that football team because he created again from nothing in the 1980s. And since then, or while he was doing that, created something called the Andy Talley Bone Marrow Foundation, which is doing great work and saving lots of lives. So good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. I'm doing great. So wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Always great to see you, Andy. I'm glad we're getting to spend this time together. I think Ange would like to ask you a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, good morning, Coach. Thanks for joining us. We were talking offline a little bit about the excitement of being in sports and what sports brings to, not just our own selves and lives, but really what I think the lessons of sports can bring to any environment. So, what I'm curious about is what about sports, organized sports, football in particular? I mean, how did this come together for you? What's kind of the backstory, so to speak?
Well, it's an interesting deal for me. I was one of those blue-collar kids in Bryn Mawr that football was important, and I really felt like in 4th or 5th or 6th grade that it was something that I really wanted to do. So I used to gather up a lot of the youngsters in the area, and we would play other teams from other areas of Bryn Mawr, and I was the coach in 5th grade or 6th grade, and if you can imagine, 12 little rugrats running around with a football. So it was something that, in blue-collar neighborhoods back in the day and in the late 50s, early 60s, that a lot of kids wanted to do. So that was my reinforcement at that time.
So not only are you a coach, you're an organizer, which obviously has been true throughout your life as well.
Yeah, I sort of had that ability to put it together and ramrod the situation, and it was something that I enjoyed doing. So, I kind of had that coaching expertise, thought process in my mind at an early age.
So I know you played college football, and what happened after that?
Well, I immediately went into high school coaching. I coached 3 sports, football, wrestling, and track and field. And after 2 years of coaching in Simsbury High School in Connecticut, I said, I think I want to be a college coach. So I took a graduate assistant job at Springfield College in Massachusetts, spent 1 year there. And then I landed a coaching job at Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont. So I went there for 3 years, coached there, and the head coach at Middlebury got the head coaching job at Brown University and took Andy Talley with him at 26 years of age. So all of a sudden I was in the Ivy League coaching real college football players, and my career took off after that.
By the way, we were talking on the way in this morning that we're both Brown fans, as your son also went and graduated there, and my daughter graduated from there, and they're both up to pretty cool things in the world. Brown's.
Yeah, terrific school. Just really a great place to start for me, and I learned a lot there. And fortunately, I was able from there to get the head coaching job at St. Lawrence University in upstate New York, which was about 10 miles from the Canadian border, 30 below zero for about 3 months out of the year. Wow. So it was a cold, long haul there for a while.
Fun football seasons, I guess, in that
Absolutely.
And so tell us how the Villanova venture began.
Well, Villanova was going to start football again. They had dropped it in 1980 and decided to bring the team back in 1984. So I knew a couple of Villanova people. I contacted them behind the scenes and said, if this job really comes to fruition, I would be very interested in it. And, of course, I was able to get an interview, and I wasn't the favorite to get the job. Actually, there was a former Villanova player who was an All-American player that was coaching, and I think he had the inside track to the job. So I knew that it was going to be really important for me to win everybody over. So I came in prepared. I had been a head coach. I knew what had to be done, especially in a startup program. And, I sat in front of the board they had the board of trustees. That was the meeting that you had there. There were 18 board members, and I had everything all lined up. I had a packet for each coach, handed each rep that was a part of the board, and said, "Hey, this is the way we're going to do it," and explained it from top to bottom. So after about an hour and 5 minutes, I finished, and the chairman of the board at the time stood up and said, "That's the best presentation that I've ever heard." And I said to myself, I have this job.
That's great.
I have this job. So I went home. My mom lived in the area. And at 2 a.m, the chairman of the department called me and said, "We want to offer you the job. Would you come up?" I said, "Well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning." "Well, the president's here, and he wants you to sign the contract now." So I went up and signed the contract, and that was it.
That's an amazing story. And it was a homecoming, I guess, of sorts, because you were back next to Bryn Mawr.
Yeah, hometown boy comes home. Used to play on the campus at Villanova as a little kid, sneak into football games all the time, and it was home for me.
That's really a dream. So you recreated a football team really from scratch. In fact, we were talking about the story of how you got an office for your coaching position. Do you want to repeat that? It was kind of a funny story.
Yeah, we, they had a trailer that they said, "Well, this will be your office." And I went, "I don't think so. If we're going to have a really first-class program, the coach we need offices." So they were building the pavilion where they now play basketball and have for years. And I said, "Give me a couple carpenters." And I found a spot underneath the stadium where I think we can put 2 or 3 offices. And that's what we did. And so those guys... I didn't know much about building, and I didn't dig any ditches, but I said, go move this, do that, put this over here, put a door here, and so on and so forth. And next thing you know, we had 3 or 4 offices that were really very nice, and that's how we started.
And how many years were you the head coach of the team?
I was at Villanova for 32 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that career, obviously, that position obviously led you to be in the College Football Hall of Fame as a coach, I believe.
Yeah, the College Football Hall of Fame is a very sacred place, really. They only take 2 coaches every year since 1879. So I got a football in the mail, and I said, "Someone's playing a prank on me." I didn't know what it was. So I opened it up, and it had my name on the football, and it said, "Congratulations, you have been inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame." So I really couldn't believe it. So I called a couple of people that I knew, and they said, "Yep, you are going in as a member into the College Football Hall of Fame, and congratulations." And I was absolutely shocked. But, you have to win 60% of your games to get in. And, you have to, I was National Coach of the Year twice. And, we won a national championship at Villanova. So I had credentials. But there are so many other great football coaches out there that should be in the College Football Hall of Fame. But I was very, very fortunate and lucky and thankful, really.
Speaking of other coaches, so I'm a University of Delaware graduate, and of course I know the Delaware-Villanova football rivalry very well, and we were talking about it, and I know you had a very competitive yet cordial relationship with Tubby Raymond. I don't know, I would assume he's a Football Hall of Fame coach. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Tubby is definitely a Hall of Famer, and of course we battled quite a bit, and during the beginning times when I played him, they were very, very good, and we were trying to build our program to be as good as they were. And there was one stream of games where he beat me 5 years in a row. And, I was like, oh, my goodness, am I ever going to beat this guy or what? The games were close, but he always won out. But then, we continued to rework our program and recruiting and so on. And then we beat Delaware 5 years in a row.
I remember.
So then it turned into a great rivalry, and Tubby and I became friends, and he came up when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame and spent some time with me. So it was really a great relationship.
Yeah, he was also a special guy, I know.
For sure.
So it's a great story. So with that, I think we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Establishing a self-directed Roth IRA or other self-directed retirement plan offers access to investment options usually only available to well-connected or wealthy individuals. Anyone can build wealth and achieve tax-free income for life and financial freedom without the inordinate risk of speculative investing, securities trading, exotic financial instruments, or hoping for the best from the stock market. Since their start in 2003, Camaplan has come to be synonymous with expertise, flexibility, responsiveness, and diversity in investment choices. They provide innovative investment opportunities for investors seeking direct control and more choices in how they deploy their investment capital. Camaplan doesn't just make it possible to invest in alternative assets, they also teach investors how to put their money to work. Take the road to financial freedom today. Go to camaplan.com/IRA.
We are back with Coach Andy Talley and Ange Honorado. And I think, Ange, would you like to talk about, we love to talk about greatest successes and influence of that and sometimes how failures have helped. Would you like to?
Absolutely. And Coach, I was listening, really fascinated by your story. And as you know, I'm a sports person myself, so I love to hear the story, how come together, accomplishments. What I'm really curious about is, all the lessons that you've learned, maybe the leadership that obviously you've exemplified, just talking about how you got the job to begin with. You kind of used influence without authority, persuasiveness, communication. I hear a lot of different things in there. So I have kind of a two-part question. One would be, have you, and I'm sure that you have, but are there some notable former players that you've kind of stayed in contact with that have gone on and done kind of amazing things in the world? And have they relayed some of that things back to you regarding what they learned, under your thumb, so to speak, by playing for you? And the second part would be, what kinds of things help you stay in that constant mode of learning? Are there favorite books or, teaching methodologies? What's kind of helped aid in your success, so to speak?
Well, we've had a number of terrific football players. One of them would be Brian Westbrook, who everybody in Philadelphia knows. He was a star running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. And Brian was from DeMatha High School in Maryland. And he, ironically, was hurt most of his senior year, so he didn't get a lot of recruitment. I was able to get down and watch him play a basketball game because I didn't see enough film on him to say I would offer him. So we went down and watched him play, and he dribbles out on the court, takes the ball, does a double spin, and does a dunk over his head. He's only 5'7", and I went like, okay, we're going to take this kid. That was that convinced me that we should take him. Of course, he turned out to be the greatest, probably, football player in the history of Villanova, and certainly a two-time All-American and a Walter Payton Award winner and a great pro player.
And a stand-up man.
Yeah,
I've met
great,
him several times through you.
Great guy. And then we were fortunate to have Brian Finneran a couple of years after that, and Brian also won the Walter Payton Award, which is tantamount to the Heisman Trophy in Division I football. And he was a great receiver. He played for the Atlanta Falcons for 12 years and had a great career. And then we had a third Walter Payton Award winner, John Robertson, who was our quarterback. And John, unfortunately, tore his knee up in his senior year, and he would have been a pro prospect for sure, but he went into business in New York City and has, done extremely well there as a professional. So those were three of the great players that I had, but we had a lot of awesome football kids at Villanova that went on and did good stuff as, in the world. Hezekiah Lewis is another one. He's a tenured professor at Villanova, and people love him. He is kind of the preacher man. He's just an unusual guy. So I've been blessed to have a lot of great players. I forgot the second question that you had. I'm sorry.
You know what? I want to watch the time, Ange, and I want to make sure, and maybe you can meld this into the question, but we want to talk about the Bone Marrow Foundation and the work you've been doing for the last 30 years, beginning while you were intensely coaching Villanova. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And I think we can incorporate the rest of the question into that.
Yeah, well, the bone marrow program was something that I think was divine intervention. I heard on the radio one morning as I was driving to work at 5:30 when an oncologist came on and said, we only have 1 million people on the donor list. We just don't have enough people to save the lives that are, struck by cancer and so on. So
for bone marrow.
For bone marrow, yeah. And I said, well, I think I can do something about that. We now have 20 million people on the donor list. So I said, you know what? We're going to have a bone marrow drive. We had our first drive at Villanova in 1992. And, in those days, they drew blood to do it. Now it's a simple cheek swab. So we've gone on and had some incredible drives around the country. This past year, we put 42,000 people on the donor list. Last year, we put 41,000 on the donor list. We put over 250,000 people on the donor list.
That's amazing.
And we have 1,000 transplants that we know about.
And you do this with college athletes, primarily football players, I think.
Yeah.
At how many schools now?
The age limit is 18 to 30, and the perfect donor is someone who is a male between 18 and 24. So this year we had 200 college football teams do drives with us, and we hope every year to improve that.
I know, and I've been following you for years. I know it's a lot more than when I first met you. You've been increasing the number of universities.
Yeah, every year it's just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's amazing. So, Ange, would you like to follow up with your question after that?
Yeah, I mean, I was really curious just about what, aside from your backstory and your interests, what kinds of things have you drawn upon in your own experience that have helped you do the things that you've mentioned? I mean, you're obviously, launched this whole, relaunched of Villanova. You started a global movement, a national movement, if nothing else. What kinds of things do you draw upon to give you that strength, that learning, constant leadership development? Because it's clearly effective.
Well, it's always been something that I've been an interest in. I started reading Norman Vincent Peale way back, and
Power of Positive Thinking.
The Power of Positive Thinking. He was one of those guys, and I think Tony Robbins is another guy that has influenced me for sure. And any guru that's been out there that's motivational. Has been something that I've taken something from. So it's helped me greatly to just kind of, read and stay up with what people are thinking and what's driving people to be better at what they do.
That's been your inspiration. And I know from talking to you earlier, a lot of people have a methodology, a lot of people have philosophy behind it. My sense of you, and from what we've talked about, is you're kind of a guy that just, you're like the Nike commercial, just do it. There's like you see, you get kind of believe in something or you get a mission, whether it's Villanova football, whether it's bone marrow transplants, and you're just very kind of tunnel vision about getting it done. Is that a fair way to?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the way it is. I am tunnel visioned for sure. I am motivated by good stuff that happens every day. It's just innate. When you're a coach, your job is to win and to develop people, and that's what we did. And so I was always around positive people. And even when you lose a game, there's a lot to learn from that. So I think being in an athletic environment has really, really helped me because you're always working hard, trying to get to a bottom line, and you meet so many quality people that inspire you, and players themselves, athletes that you deal with, can inspire you. So you almost can't help being successful because you're around people that think that way every day.
Well, it's great that you think that way because you look at how they inspire you. I know you've inspired many. Many football players that look to you as great inspirations in their life. And obviously there are many individuals who are very thankful for your efforts in regard to the bone marrow transplants. And I know we talked about over 1,000 lives have been saved. When you think about your legacy, Andy, do you think about that at all, or what would you like it to be?
Well, I think, when it's all said and done, you'd like people to think that he was interested in helping people. He was interested in, making the world a better place. I think we all look for people like that. And if people would look back on my legacy, they would say, you know what, this guy cared, and he did it the right way.
I think that's clear that that's the way people think of you, so I think you're well on your way to that. Do you have any closing advice to anybody that might be listening to this podcast or radio show, advice that you would give?
I think what I would say is, continue to keep your head up, continue to work hard, don't get down. You're going to have some rough spots. We all do. Anybody who ever had success had some rough spots. And the sun is shining every day. You just got to stick your head out the window and look for it. You're going to find a ray of hope for sure.
Well, that's an amazing closing thought, and it's something I always find inspiration when I listen to you, and I'm, again, feeling that way today. Ange, thanks for being on the line from Austin, and it is literally a sunny day in Philadelphia today, so everybody have a day full of sunshine.
Thank you, guys.
And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
We hope you enjoyed your time with Founders Forum today and you found value to take with you throughout your day. Join us again next week for another episode of Founders Forum on WWDB Talk Radio and always at the Founders Forum show page at www.dbam.com.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
The way we treat animals affects all of us. Cruelty overseas led to a pandemic, killing 1 million people. Help us fight back and make a better world for animals and people by visiting AmericanHumane.org and signing our New Deal for Animals.